Morals and ethics have long guided human societies, shaping ideas of right and wrong, and helping communities cooperate and thrive. Morals are the individual or collective principles of right and wrong, while ethics formalizes these principles into consistent reasoning about behavior. The concepts of good and bad are culturally and contextually defined, usually shaped by values, beliefs, and perceived consequences. By themselves, these ideas promote fairness, cooperation, and shared well-being. Yet their very subjectivity and social construction make them vulnerable to manipulation. History demonstrates that morals and ethics, rather than serving justice, can be co-opted, warped, and weaponized to justify oppression, violence, and even genocide. The first mechanism of moral co-option is the redefinition of good and bad. Leaders and groups in power often designate themselves as morally good, and their targets as morally bad, inferior, or dangerous. The Nazis, for example, depicted Jews, Romani people, and others as evil or subhuman, framing genocide as a moral duty to protect society. Similarly, colonial powers used ethical language to sanctify conquest, portraying the extermination of indigenous populations as a civilizing mission or a morally righteous act under the guise of progress. Morals are further weaponized by creating hierarchies, categorizing humans as worthy or undeserving, making discrimination, segregation, and even extermination feel justified within the logic of the dominant group. Demonization of the other cements this hierarchy, conditioning people to see the suffering of targeted groups as acceptable or even necessary for the so-called greater good. These manipulations underlie the atrocities of bigotry, ethnic cleansing, and genocide. In the Holocaust, morality itself was redefined, portraying Jews as threats to the survival and purity of the Aryan good. During the Rwandan genocide, propaganda framed Tutsis as enemies of Hutus, turning neighbor against neighbor under moralized narratives of protection and justice. Across colonial history, indigenous populations were dehumanized, with narratives of progress and civilization normalizing massacres. In all these cases, the language of protection, righteousness, and duty was systematically weaponized to normalize cruelty. Psychologically, this misuse of morals operates through several mechanisms. Moral disengagement allows individuals to suppress innate empathy by redefining the moral status of victims. Authority and obedience provide framing that makes atrocities acceptable, while social proof and conformity pressure individuals to accept the new moral hierarchy, even when it contradicts previous personal values. These mechanisms demonstrate that moral principles are not immutable. They are tools that can serve either life or destruction, depending on who wields them. Understanding this vulnerability is essential to prevent history from repeating itself. Morals and ethics, while guiding behavior, are not fixed truths. Their malleability makes them powerful for both good and evil. Societies can resist their misuse by cultivating awareness, critical thinking, cultural literacy, and conscious ethical practice. Awareness requires recognizing when morals are being weaponized, questioning who defines good and bad, and studying historical patterns of dehumanization and moral justification for violence. Critical thinking fosters moral autonomy, allowing individuals to evaluate claims independently of ideology or fear, asking whether actions align with universal human dignity, empathy, and fairness. Education and cultural literacy expose people to diverse perspectives, reducing the tendency to see others as inferior and inoculating society against simplistic moral binaries. Empathy and humanization reinforce these defenses by encouraging recognition of shared humanity, even in those labeled as other. Ethical vigilance in society entails supporting institutions and norms that protect vulnerable groups, challenging propaganda, hate speech, and discriminatory policies, and fostering public discourse grounded in truth, evidence, and fairness rather than fear. Consciousness-based practices, informed by temporal subjection theory, TST, and consciousism, provide an additional layer of defense. TST highlights that our perception of events and threats is subjective and can be distorted, and slowing down reflection allows moral clarity to emerge. Consciousism emphasizes cultivating awareness, noticing when emotions or fears are manipulated to redefine good and bad, and questioning collective narratives that shape society. Finally, creating alternative narratives is critical. By offering ethical frameworks, stories, and symbols that emphasize shared humanity, cooperation, and long-term well-being, societies can counteract dehumanizing propaganda and reclaim moral reasoning rooted in justice and awareness. Fighting the misuse of morals is therefore not a matter of passive reflection but of active moral engagement, questioning authority, practicing empathy, and reshaping social narratives so that ethics serve life rather than ideology. Morals and ethics are powerful, yet inherently malleable, tools. Left unexamined, they can be corrupted to justify oppression, bigotry, and even genocide. To resist this, societies and individuals must cultivate awareness, critical reasoning, empathy, cultural literacy, and conscious ethical practice. By doing so, humanity can reclaim moral clarity, protect the vulnerable, and align its ethical frameworks with justice and life-affirming principles, ensuring that good and bad are defined not by ideology, fear, or power, but by shared human dignity and conscious awareness.